Once upon a time, in a peaceful pastel village nestled between rolling green hills, there lived 3 little pigs named Percy, Penny, and Pip. They weren't just any little pigs, they were the village's best bakers. Every year, their village held the grandest event of all, the Great Big Bake-Off. One sunny morning, as birds chirped softly and butterflies fluttered through the flowers, Percy stepped out of his pink cottage with a sparkle in his eye. He wore his favorite blue apron and carried a big wooden spoon. "I'm going to bake the tallest, fluffiest vanilla cake this village has ever seen," Percy declared proudly. Next door, Penny peeked out from her pale peach home, tying a pink ribbon into her ear bow. She wore a neat pink apron and held a basket of ripe strawberries. "I'm going to make a giant berry pie," Penny said with a smile. "Sweet and gooey, just like Grandma used to bake." Little Pip, the youngest pig, sat quietly on the grass outside his small yellow cottage. He wore a cheerful yellow apron and held a tiny notebook. He tapped his pencil against his snout. What should I bake?" Pip wondered. "I want to make something simple, but full of heart." The next morning, the 3 little pigs trotted off together to the village market. They carried woven baskets and wore their aprons proudly. Colorful stalls lined the square, each bursting with fruits, flour, spices, and smiles. "Flour and cream for my cake," Percy shouted cheerfully as he skipped toward the baker's stall. "I need the juiciest berries," Penny said, her eyes sparkling. She carefully picked strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries into her basket, humming a little tune. Meanwhile, Pip wandered off and found a small, curious stall in the corner. Behind it stood an old, gentle-looking fox in a purple cloak and tiny round glasses. "Looking for something special, little pig?" the fox asked kindly. Pip nodded shyly. The fox handed him a tiny glowing jar. "This is honey from the Whispering Woods," he said. "Just 1 spoonful fills the room with warmth." Pip tucked the jar into his basket, smiling. Back home, the pigs got right to work. Percy was already measuring flour into a huge mixing bowl, stirring with all his strength. His tongue stuck out with concentration. Penny rolled out dough on her table, her little nose dusted with flour. And Pip sat quietly, mixing gently. He added cinnamon, a drop of vanilla, and at last, 1 tiny spoonful of the magical honey. As the sun began to set, warm golden light poured into each pig's kitchen. Outside, the sky turned soft pink and lavender. Delicious smells floated up into the clouds: sugar, fruit, cinnamon, and dreams. Percy carefully stacked the final layer on his towering cake. He stepped back, admiring it. Suddenly, whoosh! A gust of wind burst through the window. Percy's eyes widened. No, no, no! His cake wobbled, teetered, and splat! Down it came, frosting splashing everywhere. Percy stared at the mess, his snout covered in cream. Across the path, Penny set her berry pie on the windowsill to cool. She smiled and turned to wash her mixing bowl. But then, pitter-patter, drip-drip. Rain! Soft and sneaky, it began to fall from the sky. Penny gasped and grabbed her umbrella. She dashed outside, but it was too late. Her pie was soggy, and the crust was droopy. Her ears drooped too. "Oh, berries," she sighed. Meanwhile, Pip sat peacefully in his warm, cozy kitchen. His tiny oven glowed golden like a sunrise in the forest. He peeked inside, watching his honey cake rise. On the wall hung a framed photo of the three little pigs, laughing together in the snow. Pip smiled softly. "I hope it makes someone happy," he whispered. The next morning, the village square was filled with cheerful hustle and bustle. Tables were covered with soft pastel cloths, string lights twinkled in the early light, and a colorful banner swayed above that read, "Bake Off today." Animal villagers gathered, bunnies with floppy ears, hedgehogs in tiny hats, and sheep with wool like clouds. Percy placed his cake, now patched together with extra frosting, onto the table. He smiled nervously, a dab of cream still stuck to his cheek. Penny set her slightly soggy pie down with care. Her bow drooped a little, but she tried to smile. And Pip, quiet, gentle Pip, stepped forward with his honey cake, glowing softly in the sunlight. He placed it gently on the cloth and took a step back. The crowd hushed as Grandma Piggle arrived. She was a plump, kind pig with silver curls tied in a bun, little glasses on her snout, and a cozy green shawl. Everyone knew she had the wisest taste buds in the whole valley. She tasted Percy's cake first. Sweet, but a little wobbly," she said kindly. Then she tried Penny's pie. "Delicious berries," she nodded, though it could use a bit more crunch. At last, she picked up a fork and took a bite of Pip's honey cake. Her eyes closed. The crowd leaned in. She opened her eyes slowly, a soft smile spreading across her face. This is lovely," she whispered. "It's simple, but warm. It tastes like kindness and comfort." Sparkles shimmered gently in the air. Pip's cheeks turned pink. Grandma Piggle gently held up the prize, a glittering golden rolling pin that sparkled like morning dew. She placed it into Pip's little hooves. The crowd cheered. Percy clapped with frosting-covered hooves. Penny squealed with joy and hugged Pip tightly. But Pip looked up and said shyly, "I want to share this with Percy and Penny. We baked from the heart, together." The crowd went awe, and Grandma Piggle's glasses misted up a little. So the three little pigs each held the golden rolling pin, their hooves stacked one on top of the other. That evening, the pigs returned to their cozy kitchens. But this time, they all gathered in Pip's warm yellow cottage. Laughter filled the room as Percy rolled dough, Penny piped cream onto cupcakes, and Pip sprinkled cinnamon and honey into the air like fairy dust. Warm light from the oven bathed the room in a golden glow. Later, under a twilight sky filled with stars, the three pigs sat on a gingham blanket, sharing slices of honey cake. The windows behind them glowed softly. The moon smiled down, and fireflies blinked gently in the grass. Pip yawned and leaned against Percy, who leaned against Penny. "Best bake off ever," whispered Percy. And as they closed their eyes, the village snuggled into sleep. That's the end of our story. Thanks for listening with Blankie Berries. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed it. Good night, little dreamer.